if I could make a living walking in the woods, you could bet I'd be sitting pretty good, high on a hill, looking at the field downwind. And I'm gonna end there because I'm terrible.
What is that? What song is that?
It's Luke Bryan.
Okay, all right.
Fishing, loving every day.
Nice. Richard, welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
A little bit of a trek for you, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a drive.
I love that you guys are making the trek because the conversations are always better in person.
Well, the thing is I've done Zoom calls before with other business stuff, but you don't actually know who these people are. And when you meet somebody in person, you kind of get the gist of them within the first 10 to 30 minutes of talking to somebody. So
yeah, it's pretty much the same thing.
It's an experience you can't buy. It's not, it's not something, I'm going to talk to this person and we've talked over the phone, but I had no idea who you are. So,
keep it that way. Yeah. Keep it that way. Let me do a quick shout out. I'm wearing Clint's t-shirt from Fieldstone, so he just gave me the shirt, and I was like, cool, solid. We did a great show with him, and he was here this morning doing that. And now, how do you pronounce your last name, man?
Eipl, Eipl.
Eipl. What's that background from?
German.
You're German.
Yeah.
Richard Eipl. Tile and finishings, and then website is www.RETile.
It's RETile.
RETile 8 finishes.
No, it's RETile and finishes.
Okay, all right. So all right, I'm just trying to read RETile and finishes, and then that's on Instagram as well. And then the email is retileandfinishes@gmail.com.
Yeah, it's re.tile. Yeah, it's a
re.tile.
It's a little.
There it is. Okay.
It's a little. It's a little much too.
And then you're on social. You're not on social. We met through social. You reached out. We talked.
There's a funny story the way that worked. And
how did that work?
So I don't know what social you mean because there's so much. But if you're
IG.
specifically gonna call out Facebook, which if that's what you're meaning, I don't know.
I've been spending more time on Facebook.
The problem with Facebook is, and I'm not going to get into politics or anything, but there was a time when certain rules were changed for Facebook, YouTube, and all the likes. And after that, Facebook became more of a pain in the rear to deal with than to just say, okay, these people know who I am, and sometimes you get random people that reach out to you. So it kind of went back to the old school way of referrals. So you do a fantastic job for somebody, and then they give you a fantastic referral to their friend or somebody that, needs whatever kind of work done, specifically tile work in my case. So, but
you got work from that, right?
Yeah, that's right. All the time.
I know, but trust me, I've got a love-hate with social too, man. But I mean, this show
maybe at some point I'll get back into it, but for now, it's just gonna stay where it is.
I don't know, but social's grown this show. That's the thing. So I can't knock it that much.
No, I'm not knocking
it.
For
me to go to Home Depot and introduce myself to everybody and go, hey, you want to come on the show? That would just come across creepy, eh? Come to my van and come on the show.
It's a lot of
no,
time.
It wouldn't work, right?
Yeah.
Social media, you could be creepy and still come across as a normal person.
Yes, sometimes.
Basically, right?
Sometimes.
All right, so Richard, we're going to talk tile. We're going to talk tile today, right?
Absolutely.
Lately, I've been having a lot of tile installers on the show, which is great.
Which is why I kind of looked at it and I watched a few of your episodes and I go, you know what? I got to get my ass on the show.
And let's have a conversation about it, right?
Specifically, and I'd like to make a point, Eitile, I forget his name.
Paris.
Yeah. Great guy. And the story, that he mentioned was quite similar to my own. So not quite the same, but some of the things he said or was saying would kind of,
about the industry and what he goes through.
Well, just the way he was taught and what he does kind of sunk true with me. So
and he's a kid. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Yeah, you're a kid too still. Holy cow. You're only a couple of years older than him, man.
I'm going to tell you something, though. I'm not like most kids you've ever met. So
all right.
I'm an exception to the rule.
Cool.
So
why is that?
Well, just put it this way. The people that raised me are in their 70s, 60s. They're old.
Yeah.
So, I learned a lot from them, and it just kept going from there. So I like to call myself a little bit of the old school. So it's worked out and many times in the past.
So why construction, Richard? Like, what was it? At what age were you at that you said construction?
Well, let's go back to the beginning, I guess.
Okay.
when I first started, I wasn't. I had no interest in construction, none at all.
What did you have an interest in?
Well, what I had an interest in was welding. I like to, I mentioned my older generation parents, or foster parents is what I'll call them, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
And they're still in my life to this day. But I used to just tinker around making swords or knives, whatever I wanted. And they said, well, you have a passion for something, we see. So go make something of it. And I'm like, okay. And I finished high school, went right into trade school. And that was an eye-opener.
Which trade school did you go to?
I went to Georgian, and I went for welding techniques. So that was...
So you're like, what, 18?
18, 19, yep. Went right into
18, 19, you got a strong passion for metal blacksmith work, huh?
Oh, yeah. And high school
Not a lot of guys or girls are doing that, huh?
High school welding, oh, man.
Open things up for you?
High school welding was just scary.
Why?
And specifically my high school. Well, put it this way. You ever seen the guy that shows up on site with his socks or his sandals and socks, or sandals and no socks with no hard hat? And,
in the dead of winter?
And no, not in the dead of winter, just his shorts, his sandals, and walks right on
I've seen them.
That's the kind of, that's what high school welding refers to me, or shop class. It's like, yeah, okay.
what were some of the lessons that you learned from the metalworking in high school that you perfected later on?
I'll tell you one thing. What's nice about welding is it's not like tile work. If you fuck it up, you can fix it.
That's
tile
true.
work,
No,
you fuck it up,
true.
you can't fix it. Grab another piece.
Yeah, that's right. That's very, very true.
Scribe it and do it again. So most of the time in welding, most of the time you can fix it, but not always.
So you go to trade school.
Yep.
And that was an eye opener too?
So during trade school, I went through a couple different jobs to pay the bills, and I was just renting a room off my parents and my real parents, and the hospitality trade. So like a dishwasher job. Or
we've all done
whatever,
those.
right?
Yeah.
You're in college. You're just whatever.
Boy cleaning shit.
Didn't work out. So I was given an opportunity through another family member, and long story short, the welding became 4 days a week, full 8-hour days welding in the shop, and then you would have a 3 or 4 day weekend sometimes. So most of the time I would hightail it down from Midland, Ontario, down to Toronto, and I would work all weekend, and that worked very well for me.
And enough work too, right? There's not enough of you out there.
I was just a laborer. I was just a whatever guy, do this, do that, cut the drywall out, demo this, patch this drywall, whatever it took,
Yeah.
So roofing. So, and then from there it just kept going, and I didn't stop. After that, I went to work in the welding trade, and it was tough. It was, you're the youngest guy right out of college, and one of the great companies I worked for was, it was out of Ancaster. I'm trying to remember the company. Anyways, it doesn't come to mind right now.
I'm trying to get more, Morgan's? Morgan Metal, or I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to get more guys doing metal fabrication on the show, because it's always an interesting story, right?
Well, it's funny. I was talking to a lady, a young girl yesterday that was doing it, and some of the stuff she had was just insane.
Yeah.
A mobile welder.
Wow.
She was selling a bunch of her stuff, and it was quite informative. She was, but yeah, it's kind of like we pop up once in a while here and there, and most people don't know I'm a welder fabricator, and when I tell them that, they go, "Oh, okay, oh, okay." I don't think they really grasp what
exactly that means.
Yeah, and frankly, there's a lot of things I've forgotten. There was a book that would sit in front of you full of stuff you had to know to be on the job, and if you didn't know it, like, you're gone.
Really, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, if you can't read the blueprints, if you didn't know one symbol or a couple, okay, fine. But they don't have time there to explain to you what a fillet pass, root pass welding symbol looks like, or a hot pass, or you got to know all that. You got to know what it says, typical tolerance to 1/8 inch on 20 feet, the cross members, weld them at, 64 and 7/8 or whatever it is. There's a lot, stitch weld it, there's just so much.
And like you said, there's no forgiveness.
No. Well, there is, but put it this way. That first job that I got hired on, I did it the way the lead fabricator told me to. A week later, the main supervisor, head boss, comes along and goes, "These are all too short by 2 inches." And I go, "For fuck's sakes." And he goes,
whose fault?
He looks at me, and then he looks at the lead fabricator, and he looks back at me and says, "Cut it all the fuck apart."
Start all over.
Well, put it this way. This piece that was working on a massive jig would be about 4 times the size of this room. And it was about, 60 by 100 feet, something like that, oil refinery equipment. So you could imagine the kind of money that would have cost them for a week's worth of labor, materials. Yeah. So it was,
You still weld?
on the side.
On the side? Do you still love it?
I do, but one of the reasons I gave it up was my health and just the kind of conditions that, when you go to some of these places that
It ain't the clean. I know.
it's not clean. It's about airflow and your eyes. It just destroys your body faster than tile does. Your eyes, I've had a 2-inch wire lodged in this eye. I almost lost one of these eyes. It missed my retina by 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch, something like that. Just a million things. You know that little die grinder they stick in your eye?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that in my eye more times than I can count because of the metal
I've
shavings.
had just one little metal
I've had
shit
it more than
once.
10 to 20 times in the
It's
last
so
6 years.
uncomfortable, man.
Oh, yeah. But it has to be done because if it doesn't come out of your eye, it turns into rust. And essentially what that means is it goes like brown behind your eyelid, and then you start having vision problems. So,
You eventually lose your eye if you leave it that way, right?
yeah. So, for example, hands in front of me, they look kind of blurry, but my only saving grace is if I still look down a rifle scope, I can still see.
So how many years did you do it?
Well, that's the problem. I say 5, but for me, it's kind of been just a journey of what works for me and what doesn't. So I did it on and off during construction. Kind of went back and forth, essentially. So, and then eventually I'd say about 5 years ago, I gave it up. So I just had enough.
And the health got better?
Yeah, my eyes and my lungs,
So let me ask a dumb question because I'm fascinated by metal
yeah.
trade and metal work.
Yep.
I've never dove into it.
Okay.
I've been in those facilities.
Yep.
I want to get out of those facilities.
Yep.
Right. But since there's so much money attached to it, because there is a lot of money attached to it.
Yes and no.
On the top, I'd say the cream. There's a lot of money on the top part. There's a lot of next to no money on the bottom part, which
Right.
is you guys doing the actual physical work.
Right.
Why not make the industry a lot healthier and better because there is so much money in it? Or is that getting political?
It's borderline.
Yeah.
It's very borderline. So, you ever been in the manufacturing industry before? Let's say Honda. Have you ever been in Honda before? In
I'm not in that one, but I've been in a similar,
Tottenham, Ontario, massive Honda facility. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
Great facility. They pay their workers well. I worked there for a short period as well when I was younger, just doing whatever, packaging or whatever they needed, right? But the one good thing I can say about those buildings is they do spend the money to make them what they should be. And I've worked in other companies where you walk in there. I don't know if you've ever been in some CNC factories before. You walk in there and you get that musty smell and it hits you.
Yeah.
Well, imagine breathing that in for 8 to 12 hours a day.
It's not healthy.
And then you're sitting in a box about as big as this table, and it's all enclosed, and you're breathing in that gas you're welding. You know what that does to your body and your brain?
I can imagine.
It turns you into a vegetable. And that's one of the reasons I gave it up, is it just became more of a hassle than a reward. One of the best jobs I ever had, I worked for a private guy in the middle of nowhere, Elmville, Ontario.
Okay.
And he had a little welding shop, and he taught me all kinds of things I never even learned at college. But it was because he was an old school welder. Not in the age category, but
Technique.
anyways, that was the best reward. You had more than enough tools to do the job, but it was more lenient towards custom, you know, and that's kind of like tile in a way is, you know, you show up on a job site. Yeah, a guy can do most of the job with a grinder. No questions. But it gets to a point in time when you're going to need, you know, that big tile saw, or you're going to need that big tile snapper. And, you know, you got to do what you got to do, but it gets to a point where you need those tools. It's just night and day.
Yeah.
You know, I never even considered it, but a lot of guys, I can't remember, Scotty Chow, I think, is on Instagram.
Yeah, I know of Scotty Chow.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to him because
I'd like to get him on the show.
I remember his Instagram there. He had a mask on. And he said something about a post about breathing in formaldehyde, I think it was, on some of the trim or something. And I think I said, isn't that what they put in cigarettes? And
from the trim, like, what are you talking about, MDF or something?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
I had a good laugh about it. I'm don't quote me, but
almost any material you're breathing it in if you don't have a respirator.
But I had a good laugh about it because, you know, good on him for wearing the respirator and all that. But when you get a box of tile and it says right on the box, state of California, known to cause cancer. How many would you say out of the GTA area actually wear masks
They
when
don't
they cut those?
I'm going to say they don't.
No, I don't. I never have.
And they'll sneak it in. They'll go outside and do a quick cut.
Outside is the best.
It is, but then if you're doing so many quick cuts and you're so close to it and you are breathing it in.
Commercial's the worst. Like, I agree. Everything's close to you. Cut it, get it done. But if you can cut outside with a grinder, oh my God, it'll save your lungs.
Here's the problem: is that you get a lot of guys that either have to wear glasses and the respirator, and then all of a sudden glasses are fogging up, or you're outside in colder temps and you come back in, glasses.
There is an issue with colder temperature.
Right,
tile actually shatters when I've actually cut a couple tiles, and you're cutting it and it just shatters. And I couldn't figure it out.
So there's what is it? There's a what's the term? It's actually called.
Well, I actually like to relate it to hardwood. Like you know how you have to climatize wood before you install it.
Yes.
Well, think of it this way.
I've done that with tile.
If you store a skid of tile outside and it's minus 25 or minus 20 out, and you take that tile box by box inside to install it, you know what's going to happen?
I know exactly.
It's going to shatter.
Yeah.
And when you stick it to the thin set, it's going to freeze with the thin set, so it's not actually going to bond.
You have
properly.
to climatize tile.
Yeah.
People don't. Homeowners definitely don't know that.
Oh,
and a lot of junior tile people probably don't know that either.
I learned that the hard way.
Well, you live in Canada, so we're dealing with cold. Right now, it's turning, and you want to park tile on a pallet outside in the driveway, and not carry it inside the house until you want to start installing it. No, you gotta install it. You gotta bring it in, let it sit there for the weekend, then use it.
Which is sometimes not always doable.
No, I know. Space. Nor do clients want it.
They're
all
doing
kinds of
hardwood
crap.
floors, and the floors are all brand new. What are you going to do? Park a brand new skid of tile right on the floor?
So you're a welder, you're metal fab, and then you choose a hard trade to get into.
Actually, I didn't choose it.
It chose you?
It just came along. And
How?
What I mean by that is, once I gave up welding, I went and I worked for a great company out of Barrie called KD Clare Construction.
Okay.
Great company. You wanted to advance yourself. I think I was there. I wasn't there very long, but you were working in minus 25 temperatures. The bones were freezing past your knuckles. I remember I have a picture somewhere. There's a 6-inch Galvy spike. And I'm working up the 2-story level up in the, you know what a demizing wall is?
Yeah.
It's a fire-rated double 5/8 wall.
Yeah.
Trying to drive a 6-inch spike through a wall. And I have a cheap, shitty Stanley hammer, the rounded head on it. I remember swinging that thing and it just kept bouncing off. And I think somewhere on that picture that I took, I think I hit my hand, or my hand grazed off the nail and I caught myself. And there's a little bit of blood on the nail. And I still have the picture somewhere on my cloud storage somewhere. But I still remember that when I see that picture, because that's when I said, you know what? Screw this. And as soon as that Fastenal truck came up the driveway, you know what I did? I went and I pulled out a wad of cash and I bought a titanium framing hammer. And I still have that hammer to this day.
Still the hammer?
Yeah, it's a deluge is what they call it. So everybody used to buy the stilettos.
Yeah.
Wow, it's funny because the stiletto, you can either buy one that has a steel or alloy handle.
Or a wood handle.
Or a wood handle.
I have the wood handle one.
The wood handle one's shit. And you know what I use that
Listen,
one
I don't
for?
swing it the
You
same
know what
way
I
that you
use
guys.
that one for?
I like
It's got a rounded head on it. That is my demo hammer. Everybody looks at me funny.
that hammer is good for me. I like it. I like the grip of it, and
I do not.
I just like a wood handle.
Do you know how I got that hammer?
How?
I was on a roof, sheeting a roof, and a guy got so pissed off with it, he ended up taking it and throwing it off the fucking roof. And I went, no problem.
Can I have it?
I went down. No, I went down to grab garbage, and I picked the hammer up and put it on my pouch.
I still like it. I still. Who makes the loogie?
It's made out of the USA. That's all I know.
I've never heard of them.
So it's very similar to the stiletto wood-handled one. Only difference is it has a claw on the side for prying nails, and it has a magnet on
So
top.
it comes with a wood?
It's a very small hammer. It looks like a 16-ounce hammer, but it'll hit like a
Strikes?
22.
Yeah.
Yes. You can drive a spike in, and I tried it. I built a shed for an older friend of mine there last month. It was quite a few weekends, but I built it from the ground up, all to code.
I like wood handles, man.
And long story short, I just practiced with 3-inch spike and 3 hits. No problem.
But wait, okay, how did that get into tiling?
My mistake.
No, I'm trying to figure out where did the tile. So when was the official first day of tiling?
So that company, Katie Killer Construction, I got a phone call on site, and my buddy asked if I wanted a tile job. I would just be driving the boss around, whatever, doing labor work. And long story short, I said, sure, why not? And chances were he had a whole house to himself, and no kids, no wife, and I ended up moving in there, and one thing became another, and worked for him for a while, and I ended up sticking around, and I learned the tile. I learned a lot.
He taught you?
Yep.
What did you know at the beginning? Did you know
Nothing.
anything?
Zero.
Nothing from
Not a
TV?
iota.
Nothing from reading the back of Thin Set? Nothing
No
from
interest. No
milk cartons?
didn't
Nothing
give
at
a
all?
Shit about tile. Didn't care. I was just there to make a living. That was it.
So you didn't have a preference on underlayment, thin set,
Nothing.
style of tile,
Nothing.
nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
So you're a sponge and willing to
Yep. And
fabric cutter, snapper.
I'm not gonna brag, but I picked that up in about a year and a half.
Okay.
So then I started putting my first tiles in. 12 by 12.
How old
shitty.
are you at this time now?
I think I was about 20, 21. So
Okay.
yeah.
And what was the first job?
The first job was in Alliston, Ontario.
But what was the style of job? What were you doing? A bathroom or
just floors, 12 by
Floors?
12.
Okay.
Drop them and go. Old school. by
stacked
touch.
or
Straight stack. Yep.
okay?
So just
Right onto what? Scratch coat?
concrete.
Right onto concrete.
Commercial. Yep.
Okay. Clips?
Nope.
No.
No clips back then.
The force.
Yep.
Just the force.
Just spread and drop.
Okay.
That's it. Level it.
Yoda would have been a
Spacers.
good tile setter, right?
Oh yeah. So I get in a lot of these situations, especially nowadays, where they want it done the old school way, which is fine, but they don't really
Do
understand.
they frown upon the clips? Is that why?
No, it's about cost, is what it is. And I get a little frustrated with people because they don't understand that the old school way, you're doing with 6x6, 12 by 12, the old stuff, the smaller tiles. Sure, no clips, no problem. The problem is nowadays you get a tile that's a 12 by 24. Well, believe it or not, 12 by 24 is considered large format.
No, it's not. Not in my opinion.
Well, look it up. It's
Technically speaking.
technically speaking.
So at what point
12 by
12 by
24
12 is not a large format?
Nope. You do not need an LFT thin set for a 12 by 12 or 12 by 24.
So
or
the
smaller.
thin set is dictating the description.
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's a little bit of both. But if you've ever had a non-rectified tile before, do you know how much of a pain in the ass it is to make all those joints perfect
Oh, I know. It's
and
a pain
line
in
them
the
up,
ass.
level, no lippage?
I know.
It's almost next to impossible.
Yeah, I know.
So that's where it meets the borderline, I think, because what I know and what I hear is based off of opinions of many people and many jobs that I've ran into. And so, for example, I ran into a job I did about a year and a half ago as a friend of the family, old house built in the 60s. It was plank flooring, old
Okay.
hardwood plank flooring. And I'm not talking the finished stuff. I'm talking the rough stuff, something you'd see from a building in 1880. What do you use on that? Detra? Scratch coat? What do you use to put the tile on top? What kind of what kind of underlay? What do you think?
I'd start with a new sheathing of plywood to begin with.
Yes, if it's in the budget, but let's just say
Okay,
it was
so-
a little bathroom. It was a little bathroom. So
Okay.
what do you think would be the best?
A modified thin set of some sort.
No,
What would be
cement board,
cement board? You
Thin-
go in 1/4 inch or
half.
half inch?
Quarter you could
are
get
you
away with.
thin setting it down, or
Yes,
you just okay?
absolutely,
of course.
every time. And I've done jobs in the past where they didn't ask or require it, and now I learned
Every
why.
cement board I've ever put down before then was always thin set down.
There will be a company that will not be named, but yes, they.
Think about it. It's bond. It soaks
takes-
into the cement.
You would be surprised. There's
It
so
costs
many.
nothing. It's probably less than a bag.
We're not going to get into that because there's a lot of builders to this day that believe putting a 3/8 inch plywood over top of, let's say, aspenite is what I'm going to call it. It's not called aspenite, but
Yeah.
that's the term we use. What's it called? Chipboard.
Yeah.
Whatever.
OSB or whatever.
Aspenite.
Yeah.
So they believe that
Which is the worst to
3/8
put on.
3/8 plywood screwed to aspenite and then a bag of LFT over top, no underlay, with a million screws through that is
Nope.
better.
Nope.
This is production, is better than Detra, eliminate the 3/8 plywood, wash the floor, Detra, cement it to the floor, or Prova, whatever's cheaper, or Protega.
But Detra doesn't want you to adhere to a chipboard.
Really?
They want it to a plywood.
It says OSB, but from what I recall,
They don't recommend
won't
it.
quote it, but I believe it was in the standards that it did meet
The
standards.
ANSI standards. It does.
That's So
I've done the cement versus that, and then put. But yeah, you're right. It's budget and then also height.
that's right.
Right.
Height's a huge thing. If you bring the floor up 1 3/4, nobody wants that. They don't want a huge
Nobody wants
toe
to thread.
stub.
They don't want to ramp there. I know.
Yeah, that's right. So it meets cost, budget, and code. And what I find a lot nowadays is code is pushed under the table.
Of course it is.
You know,
We know
in
that.
the last 5 to 7 years, I've done scratch coat once.
I've never done it.
I used to do whole houses in it here in Toronto.
Now, would you do the regular chicken wire and then just a
It's a wire lathe.
Yeah, but it's just, are you doing a really milky thin set solution over it, or are you dry packing over it?
No, it's called the mix we called was cream of mushroom, and essentially what that
Cream
means
of
is,
mushroom?
Yes,
Is that what's
and-
on the bag?
No,
No,
And
that's what
it's
you
the
guys call it.
mixture. It's the mixture we call it because of what it looks
Cream of
like when you're
mushroom.
spinning it up. So when you take a bag of thin set and you add water to it, there's floor mixture, so it's more sticky. In a trowel, it won't fall off if you pick a
Yes.
glob up,
Yes.
but it's still wet enough to work with.
Yes.
Now, that we're not going to get into that, but there's wall mixture. So for ultralight, for example, it's very wet, it's very thin, but it does drip a little bit. Reason behind that is because by the time you get halfway through the bucket, it's going to be pretty solid. So it depends on how good you are and how fast you install.
But then, okay, are you
And
not
then
from the school?
below that is cream of mushroom, and you get into your Detra, and I call it cream of mushroom because what it is essentially is you take about a what kind of thin set was it called?
You talking about pay products?
Sorry.
Pay products? Or you
Yes, MAPI.
Okay.
Always.
Map by whatever. I'm
I said this to a contractor or a client once, and I probably shouldn't have. I've seen more fucked up shit done with MAPI and never failed than I've ever seen in my life. And the reason behind that is, you ever seen a tile installer? They put the Detra mat down or Detra heat, and they mix it up thin, and they parge or burn the floor in with it. Come back the next day, kind of like a self leveler.
Yeah.
And is it rock hard that when you walk on it, it chips or it flakes off?
It doesn't flake off. It doesn't chip.
That is a good sign.
Yeah.
I've seen it flake right off while
Really?
you're walking, just stepping on it. And then you turn your foot and it flakes off even more. And somehow it never failed. And you install thin set right over top of that. And this is MAPI.
But that's,
Ultra One.
so the part that's flaking off, is that not a
thin set.
sign that it's too much liquid?
Way too much liquid.
Yeah.
And it was not cured yet. So it takes.
But you've still done it, and you've never seen a failure as a result
never
of it.
had a
Listen,
failure.
every towel
Wasn't my work.
and I've got a lot of respect for your knowledge on a lot of that stuff. But every towel installer
Yeah.
has their Gordon Ramsay kind of cooking book. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So they'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Manufacturers don't like that shit because they want you You buy a BMW, it only has to be serviced at BMW. You can only use BMW parts, which is total bullshit.
Oh, you mean like Tesla?
Yeah, right. So it's just like we know as tile installers, trial and error. You've been down on your hands and knees working, trying things, and you've been mixing it.
A while ago, I wasn't sure if it was Carlito or maybe you mentioned it. I don't remember. Tech product.
That's I would never Carlito.
I've had 2 failures in 7 years.
See,
on
but
fucking
you'll get
Tech
guys who have
cement.
tried Mapei and it failed and not use it. Tech
is bullshit. I am sorry.
Everyone's different. It's
bullshit.
I've never used Tech, so I can't say.
Just their thin set. I don't. Maybe their grout is okay.
I've used Schluter's thin set. I've used Mapei's thin
Schluter,
set.
Mapei, Kiesel, no problem. All day long.
I've never used Flex.
Let me tell you something. I did a client's house, Rednersville Road, just south of Belleville. Kiesel thin set, servo light. No heat in the house. No heat hooked up. I'm doing a curbless shower. 3 fucking days. The thin set was not cured.
What was the temperature in the house?
Around
we talking about
50
winter?
to 60. Yeah, right in the wintertime. And it was still warm. They
took
had a
3 days to cure?
3 fucking days. I went there the first day.
Water.
It was still wet. Second day, it was still, I probably could have made it work, but they were like those little river rock mosaic sheets on the shower floor. And I don't know if you know anything about those, but there was no way I was even going to attempt to risk that. So I waited the 3rd day, came back, it was rock solid. But the thing is what people don't realize is, and this coming back to servo light, I did a job, radiant heated floors down in just south of Picton, right near the sandbanks.
So you're doing
sandbanks.
You're doing
5 minutes from
tile
the
on
sandbanks.
top of a cement pour?
So radiant heated floors are usually cement, concrete subfloor.
Yeah.
It was so fucking hot that they were using cement board over top of the cement concrete, just a waste of time. Within 5 minutes, the servo light, I mixed it up, a wet mixture for about a wall application. It was rock hard in 5 minutes. The temperature in the room in the radiant heated floors was at over 75 fucking degrees. And I told them, I'm out of here. And they go, well, what do you mean? I go, well, I'm out of here. They go, why? So you see that thermostat right there? It's way too fucking hot in here. Average range of temperature should be between 50 to 65 max.
But there's
you got it at 75.
I know. They think that'll help you. It will help you.
Absolutely.
It doesn't help you. It hinders you.
It cures faster than rapid set, which is dangerous. Very dangerous. Because if a thin set cures that fast, rapid set takes about 20 minutes. I use the Careflex RS a lot.
Yeah, I've used it before.
Just recently. Yeah. Not my favorite, but long story short, about 20 minutes.
I like Granny Rapid.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just
about 20 minutes,
you'll wreck all your
good.
tools if you don't clean it.
Yeah, about 20 minutes. But if a thin set cures faster than that, you're walking into a load of issues.
Later on.
Oh.
So what is it, like a shock cure that it's going to fail later on?
Well, it sucks all the moisture out really fast, rapidly, too fast. You can't, And I remember somebody mentioning Tech cement there.
It's Carlito. He loves
cause all of it to crack.
But funny that you're saying that.
A little bit of water, this much more than they recommend, you're fucked. Rip it out and redo it. I've had 2 jobs.
Have you not done in the beginning of your career where you've done certain mixes and then they didn't work out perfectly? You speak to the reps and then all of a sudden the reps say, "Are you putting enough water? Is there the right?" Then have you not taken a measuring? Going back to Gordon Ramsay, are you not taking a measuring cup?
Versatile.
I know
it should be versatile, and it should be versatile. There's a reason Mapai sells their brand through Lowe's for the homeowners, and then you go to the supplier. We get our contractor grade, and it's essentially the same. Only we get a little bit more in a bag than the Lowe's guys do. So.
Let me do a little history and construction here, Richard. World's most expensive tiles, man. At number 4 is Ultra Slim MK2 Gayoa white polished tile carried by National Tiles. It's $147 a square meter. They're massive tiles at 3'11".
Is that meter or square foot?
That's square meter.
Sorry.
1 square meter Imperial, would be 9 square feet. I know. I'm giving you Imperial on the size of the tile. So basically they're slabs, 3'11" by 9'1".
Okay.
Number 3 is Bellina glazed fish scale tile carried by Tile Cloud. It's 287 per square meter. They also come in sheets to assist tilers needed to lay the unique shape. Fosfo Blue Iris mosaic tile carried by Pool Tile,
Right.
$624 per square meter.
Right.
They absorb light. They glow in the dark. They're designed for interiors and pools and saunas. And the number one most expensive is Pietra Firma Lux Touch, exclusive line launched by Pietra Firma at the Monaco Yacht Show. Oh, yeah, I already see where this is going. It has diamonds in it. There's 2,400 pieces of mother of pearl, 400 pieces of bona.
We're not talking real diamonds. We're talking fake
Jesus,
diamonds, right?
I don't know. It's like, it's so no. These are real diamonds. Based on the price, it is
Hey.
1.3 million per square meter.
So they're the artisan created diamonds, right?
It's got to be.
Okay, got it.
1.3. Can you
real
imagine
diamonds
that?
nowadays are in very short supply, okay?
Can you imagine making a mistake on a tile that's 1.3 million dollars on one tile?
That would be a colossal fuck up. And trust me, that has happened before. I've seen some jobs I like to call colossal fuck up. Here's my rule of thumb. You're allowed to have 3 minor mistakes. And what I mean by minor is you cut a tile, you take a chunk out of the corner. You can hide it with the piece that comes into the next one.
Yes.
You never see it.
Yes.
But if you have more than 3 minor fuck ups, pack your tools.
At any
Go
given
home.
time or in the very beginning
At
of
any
your career?
time. At any time. You're an installer.
But I know plenty of tile guys that have guys that work for
People are
them.
paying
So
top
many
dollar.
fuck-ups.
They're paying good money. The last thing they want is to see cracks, chips, and breaks in their installation.
Why are guys fucking up like that? Are they not paying attention to the task at hand?
No, I disagree.
What is it then?
There are some guys like that, and they don't last very long. What it is, and what I've seen, is that you'll get a company that'll hire a bunch of guys, or a sub, let's just say.
Yeah.
And what happens is the guy that's in charge, let's say I'm in charge and I'm the lead installer. I'm the one that's being very specific. I'll go for lunch, or I'll go, let's just say, and I'm using myself as a bad example, but that person will go for break or whatever. The junior installer will be installing it. And then they'll come back and either they'll see it and they just won't, it's already done. We don't want to fix it, whatever. Let's see if they say anything. It's already done, so they don't want to rip it out and redo it. And what that means is the junior guys, they didn't know any better. And there was just nobody over here going, hey, that tile looks like shit. Rip it out. Put another one in. Hey, that tile is a 16th inch too big or 1/8 inch too big. I had that happen once. I was doing 24 by 48. I was doing about 300 square feet. It was a showroom. And I'm putting it down. They want a 64th inch grout joint on 24 by 48, which is very fucking hard.
Okay, but
It's,
first of all, it goes against all kinds of rules for grouting.
Oh, yeah, but
You can't.
that's what
the
they
bare
wanted.
minimum is 1/16 of an inch.
That's what they wanted, so I had to deliver. Now,
but who's
did it turn, no names, I'm not going to
okay?
point.
Yeah, no, I know,
But
but it's
it
just
turned out great. They loved it. But what had happened was the last 4 tiles, they were about 3 in a row. The last 4 tiles, the last second tile off the 4, it was a box essentially.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. The last second tile was an 1/8 inch bigger than the rest of them that I pulled out of 8 different boxes. There's 2 in a box, I believe. They were those
that much of a difference.
huge.
So that just,
You ever get a box of 12 by 24, you have
They're-
about
I know.
200 feet,
I know they're not. I
and
know.
you're installing, and it's an 1/8 inch bigger, that'll fuck you for 6 rows.
Yeah, I know.
And what do? Step it out. So sometimes better to just go, pull out that tape.
Double check every
This
single one.
fucking tile is way too big.
Yeah,
Pull it.
yeah.
Because that does happen. You know, everybody goes, oh, they're 12 by 24. Da, da, da. I go, is a 2x4 a 2x4? Well, what do you mean?
12 by 24.
It's a nominal fucking
never
size.
12
30
by
by
24.
60, but that doesn't mean it's bang on 30 by 60. It could be 23 and 5/8 by 12 or 11 and 7/8 is what I remember in my head because I remember cutting the tile cutter. 11 and 7/8 bang on half. That was just one brand. Every brand is different. Every manufacturer is different.
Yep.
And these 24 by 48s were good quality. They were from Turkey. They were those digital vitrified tiles.
Okay.
Polished in any color, specifically Carrera, with the gray veins through your
Yep.
common stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you have to really read the manufacturer specs on shit nowadays. And I'm not being facetious when I say that because I've had this argument with somebody before. Been doing it 25 years. Oh, we got to cover up all the pool deck. The grout's going to get wet. It's going to absorb moisture, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, it takes 8 hours to cure. Not true. Read the bag. Oh, no. I've been doing this 25 years. That's where the mentality comes in.
Yeah.
Kiesel grout. Don't quote me on it. I didn't remember reading it, but I believe it's the same. It's a rapid set. The two grouts I use are Kiesel's Servoflex, I believe it is. Kiesel's.
Why do you like Kiesel so much?
I don't, but what you get in a bag is rated for around 200 feet, 200 square feet. Whereas a MAPI, you get around about half the price. You know, a bag of Ultracolor FA goes for around $25-$30 a bag.
Yeah.
10-pound bag.
How much is a Kiesel?
Kiesel's about 50, 45, 50. Now,
but is it a better grout?
yes, because it's finer. The grit. So when you
There's no
if
sand
I
in
dump
it.
a bag of Ultracolor FA and a bag of Kiesel right here, and I sift my hands through it, the grout in the Ultracolor FA is fine. It's a rapid set, sanded and unsanded. It's okay. It'll do the job. But the Kiesel is even finer. So when you pack those joints or you parge that in, it cleaner look. It doesn't sag down. You know, I get sick and tired of going to clients' houses and I go, they want me to do their shower. And then I go, oh, who did the backsplash? Oh, another guy. Da, da, da. And I look at it and you know what he used? Fucking Polyblend unsanded grout from Home Depot. And in my mind, it goes, why the fuck would you do that? That is the
Who
worst
makes Polyblend?
on glass subway tile too.
Who makes them?
Polyblend is Home Depot brand.
It's just branded one. That's it.
It's unsanded or sanded. So here's the thing.
I'm not a fan of it.
Here's the thing, though. My mother's house, she sold in Port McNicoll, Ontario.
Okay.
I used that. It was cheap, keep it under budget. I grabbed one of each, sanded, unsanded. If you take 60-40, you take 60 sanded, 40 unsanded, and you mix those two colors together, now you have an Ultracolor FA. It's just not a rapid set. So,
See, I told you.
You've got to know the
Going back
products.
to Gordon Ramsay, man.
You got to know the products. And unfortunately, you know, I got a guy that 60 years old, been doing this 30 years, guy I work with. He goes, should we, what do you think? I want to go tile or tile right over top. 4x16 subway tile, straight stack on walls. You think I should just put the thin set over it, ultralight, and tile right on it? Or should
right
I
over existing tile?
Yeah. Or should I prime it?
On
And
a
I look at him
vertical?
and I tell him, prime the fucking tile. He goes, well, why? I go, well, think of it this way. When you have a polished surface, what's the first thing you should do? You should sand it
down.
sand it. So the way around that is MAPI,
They have a paint or primer.
what's it called? Not, it's
I know
Prime Grip.
Yeah.
Eco Prime Grip.
Yeah.
Eco Prime Grip. Tile over tile. Flawless every time. Works fantastic. I've had to do it more times than I can count.
No failures, no any
failures.
issues?
And the reason I say this is I'm not going to name any names, but there was a job that failed. The client wanted a dry pack base, linear drain.
Okay.
No. Absolutely set up disaster, failure every time. And the reason I say that is because when you put the drain from the wall, you need about an inch clearance from the control wall. You need that little inch piece, but it still has to slope.
Yes.
It takes so much time to build that up with the dry pack. Rather than use a Schluter base, you push the drain down, it slopes straight to the drain, done deal. What had happened was it was not draining fast enough. It had less than an 1/8 inch slope over 4 feet. The shower had a bench at the back to a linear drain right below the shower control, about a 36 inch.
So it had an
drain.
1/8 inch slope over 4 feet?
Less.
It's basically flat.
Yes, and it was pooling. The water would pool. So what has made it for me was there was a company I worked for over Belleville Way. I did about 4 of them for them. Major repairs that a tile guy had fucked up, and that was one of them. They had used marble mosaics on the floor, and it had a big concave,
Like a little
big
dip.
pool.
Yeah.
The guy had spent a fortune on these. They look like marble, but they're hexagon porcelain tiles, mosaics, 1 inch by 1 inch.
So
or
why
something
didn't he
like that.
fill in the base? The base
Because
was dry
what
packed?
Tile guys do is they dry pack it thinking that it's okay. And trust me, I'm not the greatest at dry pack. I hate dry pack. but we used to do whole houses with them. It takes 3 days to fully have that dry pack cured, waterproofed with Curdy or
Whatever
liquid
you want to
membrane,
choose. Yeah.
rather than the amount of labor it would cost to do that than to just buy them in the fucking Schluter pans. You're those 3 days, all 3 showers in one house, you're waterproofed, ready for tile.
But even
your
with the foam
labor-
trays, guys are getting lazy and they're not even double checking the substrate to make sure that it's level to
Wow.
begin with, or off of a perimeter wall, which we
Yes.
all know for a fact that a rim board is higher than your joist.
That's right.
So you'll have a little bit of a scoop. So now you got to factor that in. So even before you put the tray down,
Yep.
put some self level in there,
Yep.
get a base. And
Well,
then
not
put it
even
down
that.
there.
You just check it with the level, and if it's within the bubble, and say it's over about a 16th of an inch, okay, so parge the floor, and you don't have to use self-leveling. You can use ultralight.
Could be anything.
You just have
fill
to
it in.
level it.
That's it.
And
yeah.
that's key. There was a job in Picton. I had about 8 installers go look at it. Not one of them wanted to do it.
Why?
It was an old Victorian home. And the drywall moved and bounced like an inch at the bottom, and the wires, the electrician had about 14 or 15, 10-2 running across the floor right below where the baseboard would go. So I made it very clear to the client that whoever installs this baseboard, do not put the fucking nail at the bottom. They will drive it right through the electrical conduit, and you are going to have all kinds of issues. Because when you see work like that, older homes, I've done a few in Kingston, there's a lot that you got to, your head's got to be up here and thinking about, okay, there's a lot to this old building. It's 200 years old. I live in a house like that. It was built in 1886. And just some of the stuff that they did was just, you shake your head.
What was it, a bathtub or a shower being done?
It was a shower. So
it was an existing shower?
No, there was nothing there.
Oh, they're building brand new.
But what was below the floor was about 8 inches to the subfloor to the you ever walk in the
Plaster or
Victorian?
whatever, yeah.
No, the Victorian room had those tin things on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Just drywall. And I touched it with my hand, and it moved the whole fucking ceiling above.
Wow.
So what they had done is they could not get a drain and a trap in there properly. And the plumbers had decided to use 8 fucking fittings to try and use a 25, a 45, a 25.
To create a P-trap of some
Oh, yeah. So long story short, I looked at it and I said, I have to put this job on hold. And she goes, why? I go, the plumbers need to come back and they need to fix this. And there will be no names or anything here. But long story short, lead plumber came out and it was the same story. A young junior installer had put it in, not realizing that you cannot do that. It creates a siphonic trap and the water will not drain. It'll flood the whole thing as soon as you get a clump of hair like that in there.
Yeah.
So plumber came back, fixed it, put a trap in there, and we were good to go. I had to use a 3/4 OSB. I had to build the pan up, put the curb around it, and then go from there. But it takes a lot of time and knowledge, screw the whole subfloor down. Just, you got to have your head on a swivel. You cannot, if it's going to fail and you know it's going to fail, don't fucking install it. Period.
You get a lot of tile guys that are given showers that are not plumb, that are not level.
And that's okay.
You don't want to build out. You don't want to do all kinds of thin set. That are
No. That's a waste of money.
Yeah,
You're better
waste
off
of
to
time and money.
rip the drywall off. A sheet of drywall is what, $20 now?
Yeah.
Rip the drywall off and replumb it. I don't believe in them, and someone told me drywall shims. I was like, what the
Drywall shims?
yeah, you ever heard of them?
No, what is that?
I could not believe.
What do you mean, like plastic shims that go behind
No,
drywall?
they're either plastic or wood. I don't quote me, but when I think of shims, I think of door shims. For,
Yeah.
Putting in a door. Yeah, they exist, and I couldn't believe it. It's an old school thing. I could understand the application for an exterior wall, but an interior wall, come on.
I don't,
Yeah, drywall shims. Look it up. You just laugh about it. It's, yeah.
So you never started with the rubber membrane.
Yes, I did.
Oh,
I
you
started
did?
with dry pack and PVC membrane. Yep.
Really, huh?
Yeah, old school.
I don't like rubber membranes, man.
Go to the Schluter thing, and I know they like to upsell themselves, but they made a couple good points. And when you're putting in a pan or a waterproof membrane system that you're using fucking nails, should give you a clear indication. You know,
I know, that's why I never understood it, man. I was like, this makes no sense.
the best one is they use gypsum board. You ever heard of that before?
Yeah.
Is it gypsum board or is gypsum's drywall? Is it correct, or is that sheetrock?
No, it's the same family.
Okay, so there's a gypsum board that's not drywall, but it's like it's a very thin, or it's not thin. It's a very malleable sheet.
Okay.
And they use it in production a lot to kind of cut costs rather than use cement board. And what they use, and I've seen this in a couple production homes where I live, is they nail the fucker to the floor and then tile over top of it. It's strong for a certain period of time. Gives you that 5 years.
But it's eventually going to fail.
Oh, yeah. Gives you that 5-8 years. And then, yes, all the tiles start popping because you'll get that flex between the gypsum board and the Aspenite or OSB substrate. So that always fun.
And so you were doing the PVC, you were doing the weeping holes, you were doing dry pack before, but then you got into the Schluter game, and then
the boss.
What did the budget have for the Schluter?
No, I was just a guy back then, just doing as I was told, learning and soaking everything up. And now when I look back on it and I look how stupid it all was, because dry pack, commercial, you got a curbless shower, absolutely. You pay a guy come in. He can bring the floor up like this, bring it back down, whichever way you want. Yeah. Efficient. Great. No problem. But in terms of doing a shower with it, it's a waste of time. You can get a pan 36 by 36 now for $150 or something like that. Or you want a little bit bigger, it's, 180. The pricing and the systems now are just so evolved that you don't need to fuck around with this old shit. A Schluter pan and the Curdy or the liquid
But you
membrane.
get a lot of the old school guys.
You can be fully waterproofed, shower 1 or 2 days if you're slow.
But the old school guys don't like the foam. They just don't like the foam.
And I had an argument with an old guy about this. It used to be 2x2 was the minimum. That was over 5 years ago.
Oh, you mean the warranty thing?
No. 2x2 mosaic was the smallest you could install on Schluter's pans. No, listen, hear me out.
I know.
So their new pans are now like an actual white foam. And those are the new style. Those, whatever you want. The old ones that were like, they were like a flaky foam. Do you understand what I'm saying? You get an old pan that didn't have the membrane already on it.
Yeah.
Those ones, watch out for them. Absolutely.
But see, even those older ones, I would still skim coat it.
Sitting on one and I would puncture a hole through the fucking thing.
Oh, I know. Or you'd be working on it and you would depress it down. So you have to fill those holes in.
So they are constantly evolving, these companies. They know this. And they cater to the professionals in a way that they know that their product has to be bulletproof. They cannot sell something that if I'm still installing 2x2s 5 years later with the same pan, there's an issue.
So why not, Richard? Why not go to like Wheaties pan or?
Wheaties a great system. I've used their their Schluter board Wheatie. Great product. Actually cheaper than Schluter board. Their adhesive as well.
Their Schluter board Wheatie.
Whatever.
Wheatie
Schluter
won't like
board,
that. What's their board called?
Wheatie board. Yeah, Wheatie board. Whatever. It's a fiberglass board.
Marketing team right there.
It's actually lighter and more durable than the Schluter board. I find the Schluter board has a lot of flex.
Well, you need it's got cement coating on it, so you need a slightly different cutter.
I wouldn't really call it cement coating, but
you can't cut it cleanly, or can you cut it clean with an X-Acto knife?
Yes, you can cut it cleanly with a brand new blade.
That blade's only going to last so many cuts, though.
A 25 mil too. Don't use an 18. You'll cut your finger off. I would know. See these 2 X marks right here? Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Milwaukee fastback knives, the 4-inch utility knives.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yes.
Was that snapped?
This was in Winnipeg about 7-8 years ago.
Fuck.
This one was
how many stitches?
This was a year and a half ago.
How many stitches?
I don't remember, but I had to be taken to the hospital in an ambulance. That's all I remember.
Did it look like a football?
No, but the blood was past my elbow. So
fuck.
Yeah. And then I blacked out on the job site. So
that was a Milwaukee knife.
Yes. So I actually don't have one on me, but this is just a shitty Cobalt. But the fastback has a little switch on the bottom, and you just flick it like a switch knife. You just flick it forward. That's it. Done. Back and forth. Open, close. This is just your cheap Cobalt, but yes, best knives they make for tile setters, in my opinion. But
All right, so I want to ask you about your arsenal of tools now that you actually have a lot of experience. What are you using now? You're using obviously a Makita variable, right?
Was Makita, not anymore.
What's it now?
So Makita actually discontinued their one grinder that I really enjoyed, and I
Why
had it
did
for
they
years.
do that?
So there's two types of grinders. You can get a Makita that has a bar switch.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like that one. And then the one on the side, I was told from Home Depot, no, don't quote me, maybe I'm wrong, but there's a switch on the side. Apparently, from what I was understood and told, they discontinued that now. Maybe it's not true.
But that's the one
But
that
I
you
tried to go to every Home Depot in my area. They no longer sell it. And
So
so
what
for
did you end up
example,
getting then?
Bosch. You can buy a 2-pack, $120.
Variable?
Grinder? No. It's a 6.5 amp. It's a very hard grinder to control. So here's how it went. I had those for years. The older ones were not bad, but they vibrated like a son of a bitch. The newer ones now, they've gotten a lot better, a lot cleaner. It's a lot more easier to control. It's a very thin grinder. Now, that grinder is not the grinder I used to cut tile with anymore. What I used to cut tile with, you ever heard of Metabo before? Yeah. Metabo, they sell them for an installer. He's quite up there in age. I think he's 54. He had one on site. Comes in a grain case.
Yep.
They're about $75, $80 retail. You can buy them from Home Depot.
Variable? No, they're not variable either.
No, they're a little bit less
model.
than a Bosch. They're not a 7.5 amp. They're either a 6.5 or slightly less.
So why do you like that one?
Because they're a thicker casing on the grinder, and they're a lot easier to control, and they're a lot cleaner cuts, I find.
They heat up?
No, absolutely not.
So they're a bigger mortar, but they're not.
It's HPT Metabo is the brand, or HLT, something like that.
Yeah.
But they are Makita's old brand. So Makita, or either Makita or Hitachi, one or the other. But I call them the same family because, let's say, they're Japanese. So
what's the blade that you're using on it?
That varies. We used to use the ones from Centura. They're the yellow ones, but I don't have access to those where I live. So what
Won't they ship them to you?
I don't know. I can't be bothered. Whatever my supplier can get. And essentially what I've been using for the longest time is I hate pearl. I hate pearl with a passion. I'm running one right now. It's a blue pearl turbo, very fine blade.
How come you don't like pearl?
Because they're shit. They don't last. They
don't
don't last.
eh?
They don't last.
They probably
6 months.
Yeah, they cut really well in the
beginning.
beginning.
So the best blade I ever had, and I still have it, it's worn and abused, is it's called a Ruby Turbo. Ruby Turbo. It looks like the pearl, but it's not. It's a lot thicker, and it looks like the Centura blades. Hard to get them, apparently. Suppliers got to ship them in from ProSol is our main supplier out there. Okay. But
do you have a ProSol by you?
Yeah, it's in Kingston, Ontario there. But long story short, Ruby Turbo is a blue blade that is rated for up to 20,000 linear feet. I've been abusing and using that blade for the last 2 years. I first started using it over a year and a half ago here in Toronto, cutting 3/4 inch porcelain for a pool deck. And that thing would keep up to a big $5,000 saw all day long to cut 3/4 inch porcelain.
And you were still using on the same grinder, the same Metabo one? Yeah.
Same grinder, yes. So
sounds bad.
This blade has been abused, and she's finally time to retire her. But for your bang for your buck, Ruby Turbo. Absolutely.
All right, man. Little OBC talk here. Waterproofing wall finishing.
Okay.
Waterproof wall finishing must consist of ceramic, plastic, or metal tile, sheet vinyl, tempered hardboard, laminated thermosetting, decorative sheets, or linoleum. Give me these big words, eh?
You got a lot there.
It must extend to the height at least 70 7/8 above the floor in showers. Is that the waterproofing code for OBC?
Okay, so
70 7/8 above the floor in shower stalls, 47 1/4 above the rims of bathtubs with showers, and 15 3/4 above the rims of bathtubs without showers. And one more. Waterproofing protects plaster, wood, and brick work beneath, preventing mold and other damage. I don't remember them being that high, 70 7/8 for a shower.
70 7/8
for a shower stall,
80 inches.
Yeah, that's where you got to be fully waterproof.
So, is this talking from the subfloor to the ceiling?
This would be from the bottom of the shower floor.
Okay,
so you're almost 6 feet.
that's right.
It's about right. And then over a tub with a shower, it's only 4 feet, 47 and a quarter.
So here's the thing with tub, though. The tub doesn't go from the subfloor up. It goes from the...
No, this would be from the rim of the tub.
So from the rim up, yeah, it would be about 4
So now you're
feet
getting back up to 70-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
well, it's just more than 4 feet. It's roughly 5.
but that's with a
86.
shower. And then just a tub with no shower is only 15 and 3/4, which I remember it being 16 inches.
Yeah, that sounds
that
about
was
right.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That was a little OBC talk.
Well, some people like to, so say we're doing a shower, say right from the subfloor all the way up to the shower stack just above that. That's where most people like to end their waterproofing, whether it be Curdy.
I've waterproofed
and I say
all
to
of
them,
it.
I say, listen, I go, I have the material here. There's going to be no difference in price. Literally, I bought the material to do this square footage. Just put the last fucking 14 inches above the shower.
I would also, because you know how you get the corners whenever you get the kit for Schluter?
Yes, inside corners.
And so if you don't curb shower, you always have extra corners.
That's right.
So I would keep corners
Always.
and just save them
Always.
in the Ziploc bag.
So
and I would start cornering the top ceilings. I would just
if
do
you're
that
tiling
for
the
the
ceiling,
shit,
yes.
yeah, shit's
Yes.
giggles, right?
If you're tiling the ceiling, yes.
Which
but,
every shower I've ever built, I've tiled the ceiling.
was it iTile that got into ceilings there? I think he was talking about ceilings. I had a good laugh about some things he was saying. Nothing bad.
Oh no, about what I mean, because the 2 foot by 4 foot.
About putting the tile on the ceiling, yeah. And he made a good point there because, they were never designed to be on a ceiling with, 80 to 100 pounds on a fucking ceiling.
No, they weren't.
Because you got to remember, what's a ceiling? 2 foot. 2
on
foot
the second
on
floor,
this-
it's 2 foot on center.
Well, let's just
Roof
say
rafters.
it's a 1 story and the roof trusses are 2 foot.
Yeah, so you're 24 on center.
So that's very dangerous because some of these old houses, you get 2 foot on center walls, interior walls. It's almost impossible to get the drywall, the tile, and everything to line up beautifully. So you end up having to frame because it's not up to code.
See, it's kind of funny how you get large slab,
Yeah.
or if you get some sort of manufacturer or fabricator to do a slab, and then they'll do a full piece on the ceiling.
Yeah.
They'll mechanically fasten that ceiling piece on around the
Which
perimeter.
works. Yeah, it's essentially.
And then you leave your walls kind of cradling it,
Yeah,
and then it's a whole piece of stone, so that'll work.
Yeah.
But then nobody talks about putting a 2 foot by 4 foot tile on the ceiling and not considering mechanically fastening it.
Well, essentially you don't have to, but if you're gonna if you're gonna waterproof drywall the whole shower, see when a client goes, "Oh, it's already drywalled," I go, "Oh my God, fuck me."
Thank goodness you already drywalled
God,
it.
fuck me. And I had a client in Prince Edward County a couple of years back, 2 foot by 4 foot tiles in their shower. And I'm looking at the drywall and I stick my level and I go, it's out fucking 3/4.
Was
and they
it
go,
moisture resistant drywall? at
oh
least?
no, it's blue drywall. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that's
it's better. It's better
that's
than green drywall.
That's human tech.
Oh
yeah, that's human. Yeah.
But long story short, I go, do you guys have pictures of before it was drywalled? Oh yeah, no problem. Bring their phone over. They're looking through the phone. And I start looking at the studs. The motherfuckers missed a stud under the window. So I knew it because of the way the drywall was bowed. I go, this fucking stud spans over 2 feet with no contact. There's got to be something going on with this drywall. And I was right. As soon as I seen the picture, I said,
Missing
okay.
stud?
I said, guess what? They go, well, what's up? I go, I'm putting a stop work on this. Oh, what do you mean? I go, call your contractor, whoever installed the drywall, and tell him he needs to get over here and fix this. Oh, what do you mean? I go, well, I cannot put a 24 by 48 inch tile on the wall with about 80 pounds, thin set and all, tile, all said and done, and the drywall bows 3/4 of an inch. It will not happen. It cannot happen, and I will not do it because you have so much flex and so much moisture.
What did they do?
They called the contractor back in.
And then the contractor took care of
He
it?
came and fixed it. Yep.
So unscrewed?
Yep, they unscrewed it, and I hadn't waterproofed it yet. Came back, and he fixed it. I put my level on it. It was bang on. No questions asked. And sometimes you have to be very direct with people and say, listen, this has to be done right. You're dealing with forces. You got movement. You got moisture. You got hot and cold. You're going to heat the shower up. You got hot water coming out of that shower head. The steam's coming right off it. It's rising.
You got every element possible in that one little area.
Yeah, and why risk it? You're spending, $100 a tile at that point for 24 by 48. You really want that tile coming off the wall or falling on your head? There was one in the county I did about a year ago, and they wanted it was about a 9 or 10 foot by 38 inch shower, linear drain or center drain, 24 by 24 on the walls. The building was built in 1815. Yeah.
Wow.
And you know what goes on in those kind of buildings? 2 coats of drywall, lath and plaster beneath it, old school balloon framing. And to boot, the best part, the subfloor. The contractor decided that toe nailing with a pass load gun, the subfloor to the bottom plate of your stud wall was sufficient enough to hold the kind of weight that a 250-pound man or whoever standing in that shower when it was all said and done would be enough to support that. And yeah.
So this is all new construction, new framing into the old framing?
Old, and this is what happens. You get these contractors that are about my age, a little bit older, and they really don't understand that things back then were built with a hammer and a nails. There was no pass load guns. There was no,
and the nails were different. There were spikes, basically.
Yeah, but which is fine. My garage, built in the 40s.
Yeah,
it's
same
okay.
thing. Yeah.
But there are things with the subfloor that are just uncompromisable. I pulled that plywood up, or OSB, esplanade, whatever it was. There was nothing holding that bottom plate up except for a little block this big.
I got a question for you about bishop joists.
Okay.
Do they compromise structure?
Remind me again what bishop joists
So bishop joists were all designed for older shower applications where they take the top of the joist and they chamfer, they cut it into a peak. And they did that so then you could put plywood in between the joists and then you would dry pack in between everything to the top of the peak.
I might have seen that. Way you're describing it may not be what I understand myself.
Okay.
But I think I know where you're going with that.
So it doesn't have a flat top. It's got a pyramid top, like an angle top.
Oh, so essentially a notch like this.
Yes.
Yes.
It's known as a bishop joist.
Long time ago. I have
a lot of the older homes. I came across
I
a
have
few
not
of those.
seen it very often lately.
But I just started thinking, does that compromise the structure of that joist? And then when you fill it in with dry pack in between, it reinforces the structure of that joist now.
I would say nowadays, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely stronger
like
than
you have to remember the timbers back then were bigger, the joists were bigger.
True,
but what you're dealing with now is, you got instead of beams, you got LVLs and you got TGIs, and I don't know if you know full home construction, but you're looking at a TGI and going, what the fuck is this thing gonna hold? It's a aspenite 2x3 laminated together.
It's designed to be a part of the assembly, right?
But
on its own, it's weak.
It's exactly. So that's what I mean. And you got to think of a shower like that. So I don't know if you know what a Frankenstein shower is.
No, what's that?
Well, I'll put it this way: if you don't use Mapai, or if you use Schluter, and if you use products that are way out to over here with a Schluter product or whatever, it's called a Frankenstein shower, which means if something fails and Schluter comes in to look at it, no warranty. And I know you don't like that word warranty.
No, but have you ever needed to use a warranty claim?
No, because I put 5-year warranty on all my stuff.
Yeah, I don't know a single tile person.
I put 5 years on all my stuff, and the reason for that is because I'm not confident in it. And like I said, tech was the only issue I ever had. But the bottom line is, let's just say, for all bullshit's sake, that something does fail. You want to be the guy that has to come back there and go, oh, fuck, it's,
But if it doesn't, so there's going to be a huge inquiry, right? So even if it's a Schluter issue, or if it's a Mapei issue, or if it's a tile issue, you're going to have to bring all three parties, including yourself.
That's right.
And for the most part, they're there to figure out if they're at fault.
That's right.
And then find out who is at fault.
That's right.
So ultimately, the installer at GC.
Ultimately, you stick with what is good. So you don't have to use Curdy. You can use, so for example, don't quote me on their warranty. I don't know the fine print. But you stick with, me personally, Mapai Liquid Aqua Defense. I used it for some of my blue-collar clients a few years ago. It was not a bad product. But now I'm kind of like, okay, you know what? Hydrobend's better. Latacrete is up there with Schluter. I love their epoxy grout. I swear by it. I'm doing jobs with this fucking Care epoxy, and my supplier goes, "Oh, you're the poor bastard that bought five pails of the the 1 gallon Care epoxy." The problem with Care epoxy, I find, is it has a resin hardener. So I don't know if you know much about fiberglass and resin hardener and that kind of stuff. So you go to fiberglass, a canoe. It has the fiberglass, the gold resin, and then you have a hardener. Well, if I could relate it to anything, I could relate that to Laticrete, 3-stage or 2-stage epoxy for pools. And the best part about it, and I'm not saying that you can water it down, you're not supposed to, but the best part about Laticrete was you could take the resin harder and do a half mix, a half. Care epoxy you cannot. It's all in the bucket, comes with the bottle in it. Sometimes the bottle has a hole in it. And it dries. If you read the fine print, it says thermoplastic or thermal something. And when I hear that or I read that, you know what that makes me think of?
What?
Do you know what thermoplastic caulking is for exterior applications around windows? It's about a $10 tube of caulking that as soon as it hits air, it's rock hard. And that's what I think when I think care epoxy.
Okay.
So I love Laticrete 2-stage epoxy. I could use
I'm hearing a lot of good things about it.
Well, it's from what I recall, it's I believe it's a limestone base. I could be wrong. But it's just a product that I find is so much easier to install for being an epoxy application. Care epoxy, sure, but would I want to use it? No.
Richard, is there a particular construction bone you want to pick at regarding the tile industry? One that jumps out at you?
What? Be a little bit more specific.
Just one. Just one.
Construction bone?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's tough. There's a bunch of things.
Okay,
It depends on.
ramble them on, man. What are you talking about?
Just when it comes to tile, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's a difficult one because there's so many.
Well, there's so many young trades in the industry. I don't see a lot of the old tile installers out there.
Construction bone. You know, I might have mentioned this. Guys, they don't understand the products, for one. Believe me if I'm wrong. Curdy, you have to, if you mud and tape the walls, do you have to prime them? Drywall in a shower.
In the beginning, you didn't have to, but now they're asking you to do that.
Have you ever installed it with it?
With primer?
Without primer.
Without primer, yes, I have.
Has it failed?
No.
Really? That's interesting you say that because I've actually seen other guys do it. And do you know what so for example, have you ever taken Curdy on a shower, unprimed, mud and taped, and you ever peeled the corner back? Do you know what's supposed to happen when you peel Curdy? Just pulling it.
So the actual other side of the fabric, whatever, is supposed to adhere and stay with the drywall.
That's right. So it's supposed to separate.
Yes.
So long story short, I get on the phone, I call Schluter, and I go, are you supposed to prime and tape drywall, supposed to prime the drywall if it's been mud and tape? They say, yes, absolutely. And the reason for it, I've seen other contractors, maybe it was a junior guy that installed it. I don't know. I don't care. Painter's in the next room. Big job. I grab the corner, it rips the whole fucking sheet right off the wall.
So it doesn't separate?
Does not separate. And what I mean by separate.
But hang on, let me preface that because I've never installed Curdy
membrane.
Curdy membrane over mud and tape. I've only installed it over a substrate.
Drywall or
cement board
OSB,
or whatever,
and
right?
that's fine. Yeah.
That's it. So I've never, because I looked at it like, okay, there's no reason to mud and tape this, man.
So what happens, I've noticed.
So you're talking about the plasters causing this.
What happens is even if sometimes it's a fuck up in the mixture of the thin set and it's just not wet enough or either it's too wet, and it's a very fine borderline I find because I've demoed a lot of some other people's work that I've had to fix. And I noticed that when it's strong and it's on there, instead of just pulling the white piece off the back of the fabric, it'll actually start ripping chunks of the drywall off. Then you know it's adhered on there. It's not coming off. And most of the time the drywall is primed. Always. I've had jobs where you grab the back and it rips it right off. The white either most of the time doesn't stay on or it stays on the drywall.
But they just introduced that primer recently, didn't they?
Oh, it's just any primer, Dulux primer or whatever, your paint primer.
No, but now Schluter has their own primer now.
Oh,
right?
do they? No, I didn't know.
I
that.
thought I saw somebody.
Maybe I haven't.
Well, I
heard
mean,
of
they
it
have
yet.
they're evolving their products.
Oh,
right?
of course.
So the peel and stick.
Oh, well, they have 6-foot rolls now. I don't know.
Yeah,
if you,
which are great.
Oh,
Makes
less
a lot
joints.
of sense. Yeah,
But
exactly.
One issue with that is joints are necessary so that you can actually pull. If you know, you got to.
You need to get the air out of there.
I'm 5'9".
I know, you
roughly.
gotta get the air out of
You got
there.
to stand
I
on
know.
a ladder. It's really hard to get that all out. So, yeah, it's just one of my bones that I've seen. The painter's in the next room. You got a can of primer, Sinner. Just prime the fucking wall. Call it a day. Because the primer sucks the primer into the drywall.
Yeah.
And then when you
Seals
put thin
it.
set over it, it doesn't suck all the moisture out of the thin set.
Yeah.
And what I notice is when you pull that curdy off and there's no primer, the drywall has sucked all the thin set.
But do you
into
remember in the
drywall.
beginning, nobody was washing substrates before putting Dietrich down, right?
That is the first
They were
thing you do.
sweeping. They were sweeping, maybe vacuuming,
enough. It's
but they
not
were not washing them.
It's not enough.
But it wasn't until a few years after that Schluter started saying, no, you have to have a complete clean substrate. It has to be washed.
And I agree.
And I agree with you. For that same
Absolutely.
reason. It's the water soaking in, the thin set.
No, what happens is a drywall guy will be in there sanding and sand it like 3 times, whatever. That fucking sand gets right into the substrate.
Yeah.
Let's say Aspenite or OSB. You have to get that out.
Yeah.
And what happens is you wash the floor, come back 20 minutes later, and it's dry enough. But it's not to the point where there's so much water in the substrate that it won't absorb. So, yeah, it makes total sense.
So here's my thing about my little construction bone is that I don't like GCs that tell tile installers, we're good to go. It's all ready for you. And then they
I
show
agree.
up
I agree.
and it's not ready for you.
There are some companies that will not be named that
I know,
I've been
but they
through
do that all the time.
And I refuse to work with those kind of
Like
people.
you show up and you've already scheduled your day. You've
Yep.
got your crew.
Yep.
You're lined up. You've got all your
Yep.
horses all lined
Yep.
up. You show up on site and it's not ready.
No, that's right.
But they want you on site just to, I guess,
Nope.
show the client that we're
Nope.
moving along and trades
Nope.
are working, which
Nope.
is all bullshit.
It's not ready. It's not ready. We
not
go
ready,
home.
yeah.
Too bad. Period. I don't care what the contract is. I don't care what it is. You cannot compromise what you're going to install just to appease a GC.
I know.
And I had this argument about a week ago. I say, the guy comes up to me and goes, well, why is this taking so long? And I go, the tiles are 3/8 inch thick. The edging or the profile, the Schluter sheen or dolly, is 3/8 inch thick. I said, what do you think I have to do? Oh, I don't know. I have to push all the thin set out on the fucking corner. I said, who told us to do this? Oh, the architect. If we don't do it that way, they can tell us and come in here and tell us to rip it all off. I go, really? I said, bring him over. Let him talk to me. I said, because I don't care. I'll stand up to him. No problem. Because just like a specialist or a doctor specialist or an architect, they don't know everything.
No.
You know, I've had them supply me this MAPI CQ grout. I did not realize the client calls me and says, it's still a mess. I go, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, there's still haze on the tile. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I never was.
And I got there.
I never was a fan of that.
And I got in there, I looked in, and I'm like, for fuck's sake.
Their
I got on
whole
the
angle
phone,
was
I
the
call him, I say,
pre-mix
you know
thing.
what? You're right. I apologize. I did not realize this being a quartz activated pre-mixed grout that the fucking architect told us to use. It leaves a residue almost like an epoxy. So here I am with a brush.
I know.
Muric
You're washing
acid
it.
or,
I know.
you know, and yeah, this
I
is
didn't
why
like
you
it, man.
really
I
got to
still
know
don't.
the
Are they still
product.
selling that?
Oh, fuck yeah.
They still sell
They
it.
tried to sell it to me. I go, no, take that shit and you throw it in the garbage.
I'll
over
only
there.
use FA or ideally, if I really want to,
Yeah.
epoxy.
Exactly.
I've always had. I love epoxy.
I love Latacrete epoxy. There's another brand of MAPI, not the Care epoxy. It's not the CQ. It's another version, but it's not CQ, and it's actually
It's
not
FA,
bad.
isn't it?
No, there's another epoxy premix. To see, they're getting a lot
Premix epoxy.
So Spectral Lock Latacrete comes with their premix epoxy as well, and their non-epoxy. So it's grout premixed in a bucket. So you have to spin it up or whatever. But yeah,
But you don't have to do two-parter.
No, a lot of things are leaning towards now is premix. I don't get into it too much just because I can't usually manipulate the mixture to what I need on the type of job I'm doing. But yeah, some of it's not bad, you know.
Let me talk a little green book here, man. This is going to be fun. This is going to be
yeah.
a game show here.
Oh yeah.
Finds to watch out for, ladies and gentlemen. failing to appoint a supervisor to a project with 5 or more workers. What's the fine on that one?
20,000.
550.
550.
Supervisor failing to supervise work at all times. What's the fine on that one?
1,000.
550. Failing to establish written emergency procedures.
550.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Failing
universal,
to post in emergency procedures. To post them. How much is that one?
550.
Failing to ensure fault protection training.
550.
Yep.
Really?
Failing to wear protective headwear.
550.
Nope, 250. We all know this because this has been shared so many times. Failing to wear protective footwear.
250.
250. Failing to wear eye protection.
250.
250. These fines can easily be avoided. Be safe on your job site.
I'm actually surprised those are not a lot higher nowadays.
You know what? I kind of agree with you. Mind you,
know,
I've been fortunate enough to never get one, and I've always had a bunch of guys that have been on the show that.
So,
the hard hat one is the one.
What are the most expensive ones you want to avoid?
Well, someone injury or death or like that starts to get into a different ballpark.
Oh
man.
yeah, that's a totally different.
I want to get close to wrapping up, Richard, but I do want to pick your brain about clips.
Okay.
I'm sure you've got an opinion about clips.
Which type?
Well, that's what I mean. That's the opinion part.
Which
do you,
ones?
or actually, let's first start off with: do you like clips or do you dislike clips?
Depends on what application you're using them for. 12 by 24 rectified edge, sure, no problem. Make my job easier.
And then anything
faster.
larger from there, definitely,
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Now, are you going 15,000 clips? Doesn't matter how big it is, or are you just going 1, 2, 3, and then?
It depends on the job, but floors open lay, yeah, you can get away with one. So 24 by 24, you can get away with 3.
Yeah.
12 by 24, you can get away with 2. But it depends. Are you doing brick joint or are you doing straight stack?
That's
You're doing brick joint, you're going to burn more.
So what is your clip of choice?
Well, Perfect Level Master are the best. Everybody knows that. No disputing it. But they are a little pricey. So
they're more expensive than the competition?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Like dramatically more expensive?
Not, I'd say dramatically, but see, here's the problem. I've never actually ordered a box of 2,000. Maybe one of these days I will. But the best way for contractors is to order a box of 2,000. In that retrospect, meaning, you do a job and you think you need 500, and then you're.
But you got more jobs if you're a tile installer.
Yeah, like 5 rows left and you don't have enough. It's like, oh, I gotta go get more clips. So the best way is to order a box of 2,000. But I've kind of experimented. The QEP ones are the clear ones. Same thing, 2-inch. They call them their AB system from Lowe's.
Okay.
Essentially, they're not bad. The problem is if you crank them too tight, you're gonna snap them. You're gonna snap them right off.
Okay.
So they weren't bad. A lot of guys use those with the. They mix the systems. They use the red wedges with those clips. Save some money. They're not bad. But mostly the Perfect Level Master. I've taken a 38-inch by 6-inch hardwood tile, and I've bent that fucker more than 1/8 of an inch to put it on. It was on the bottom of a shower. It had like it was radiant heated floors. There was just no way, the way this plumbing came in the floor, there was no way to avoid that. So I actually had to bend the tile. And
I've done that before.
Those Perfect Level Master will bend the tile.
I feel like a god when I bend tile.
The cheap ones, not going to
You start putting weight on it. You start shimming it. You start like forcing it, hoping
inch,
it doesn't break.
Yeah, 1/8 inch is kind of your
2 foot by 4 foot tile has got a bow in it.
Yeah,
that's a guarantee.
Yeah, which is when they go, oh, you don't need clips, and you go, okay, what do you know?
You've had clients tell you that, or you've had
coworkers. They go, oh, I just put them down with the spacers. We don't even use spacers, and I look at them like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. It shows what you know, because if you take a tile, a 12 by 24, and you put it like this, it's not straight.
No, it's not. I know
so
that.
what do you think happens when you put it on the floor?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
And commercial, not necessarily always. But here's the thing, I'm finding a lot of the commercial now, it wasn't like it was, 5-10 years ago. They didn't really care. They just wanted it down, keep the lippage to a minimum, yada, yada. And it looks good, right? Now they're starting to get a little bit more picky. And it's getting to the point where if this joint's bigger or this, they're not happy. And you got to kind of walk the fine line between what the client actually wants and upgrading to clips. So
the NC Standards actually has forgiveness in the lippage, eh? You're actually allowed I think it's
I haven't
1
gotten
mil.
into those standards yet.
I think it's 1 mil.
I know in my head the TT Mac on what they call for on substrates and that kind of stuff. And most of the time on my own jobs, I always use clips. Always. Unless you got a subway tile, a 4x12, you don't need clips. You don't need clips for that. It's a waste of time.
I know, but you get those guys who are using hexagon tiles and they're just clipping the shit out of everything.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that. That meets the minimum, but you
that's
don't
just
need
clip
4
porn,
clips.
man.
Actually, it's a good thing some of the guys, they'll take the hardwood and cut it to the tile. I have not done it yet. I've always wanted to. It's quite inspiring stuff. They take the hardwood and they cut it to the tile.
I know.
They take about, a box or two and they clip them all together and grab the whole panel. You know what? All the power to them. If they want to be custom like that, no problem. If it works for what you're doing and the way you install, absolutely.
Sure.
But
if you troweled it on perfectly.
I cannot stand here and say what you're doing is wrong.
No.
And you can't stand
here
and say what I'm
back
doing
to
wrong.
the whole tool thing. Whatever works for you. That's
right.
as simple as that.
But
man.
in a general consensus, you don't need to for a little tile this big. But
I'm not a fan of that whole threshold between hexagon tile and then hexagon hardwood and cutting it.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a skill set to it, but
Yeah.
when it comes to design and creativity, it looks like shit and I'll rip it out next week, right? That's my
your
opinion about it.
opinion,
I mean, I look at it, I'm like, okay, fine. Skill level, 10, great.
Yeah.
Design level, fucking annoying, 0. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I looks
sure.
like shit. I'd rather have a straight line, and that's just me, right?
Yeah, but some people...
A lot of guys in Boston will disagree with me.
Oh, there's some tile a friend of mine sent it the other night. It looked like a border inlay on a shower wall. And I'd like to give a shout out to my supplier there. A lot of tile, or I hope I pronounce it right. A lot of tile. Yes, a lot of tile.
A lot of tile?
Yeah, it's ALOTA.
Okay.
They're, my supplier owner's Anthony Brooks. Great guy. And he's similar to you in a way. They like to kind of educate all the contractors, and they, we go there, we buy our stuff, and they like to keep guys up to date on what we should use. We go, okay, what do I need to do this and this and this? This is what you should use. And not because they have all the answers, but because of kind of what the standards call for. So, a client wanted epoxy grout. I go, what's the best? What should I use? Oh, there's a Laticrete, or you can use the Care Epoxy.
They carry everything?
So, yeah, they carry just about everything. And it's a great brotherhood of people, essentially. So I can get on the phone right now and call 3 of them. And most of the time they'll answer, and I go, hey, I got this problem. What should I do with this and this and this? And they're a very high-end custom company down there in Prince Edward County. So
nice.
Everybody's heard of the Sandbanks before. So, yeah, Sandbanks, most beautiful beaches in Ontario.
I want to ask you, Richard, what are all the cool kids using for clips on social media?
Clips?
Yeah.
It's funny. I see a lot of Paygram here in Toronto. I've never used them, but I'd say Perfect Level Master. I'd say is pretty much the going thing nowadays, but I could be wrong. I'm not a social media nerd.
I don't know. I only follow a handful of tile guys, so I don't understand.
Same
right?
here.
I don't dive in deep into any particular trade. I have a balance of all the trades, and I just pay attention to everybody, right?
That's right. Yeah, there's so much. Yeah,
You ready for the 12 questions there, bro?
Sure. Throw them at me. What do you got?
You got them right there, but I'll just ask you the question, man. I just want to let everybody get in. So website again is RETile at... Sorry.
RE.tile.
Sorry, let me say it again. RETile and finishes, and it's the actual and symbol.
Yes.
Right? And .com.
For Instagram, I believe it was RETile and finishes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then the website, the email is RE.tile.
The email is RE.tile and finishes. That's
and right. the word and finishes at gmail.com.
That's right. A little confusing.
No.
It's something I put together and I wasn't really thinking of it.
What is your favorite construction word?
Favorite construction word? Well, I'm going to say favorite construction. I don't know. Is this relating to all aspects of construction?
Anything to do with construction.
Favorite construction word? I'm going to say new build. New construction.
You like new construction?
Yeah, always. Yeah.
The smell, the new look.
The paint, the new smell, the custom, the everything. Just, yeah.
What is your least favorite construction word?
Reno.
What turns you on in construction?
Well, some guys say the sound of a skill saw. For me, if you hear that impact driver, it's a good sound when you walk on site.
Yeah, but you don't have a Metabo one, do you? What do you have?
No, Milwaukee.
You have a Milwaukee one?
Milwaukee Red. Yep.
Until it bites you.
Nope.
It won't
Never.
bite you?
Never. Nope.
What turns you off in construction?
Budget.
What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck sakes.
What's your favorite vehicle in the entire world?
And it's funny you say that. I was thinking about that on the way in, and I'm like, everybody would say a Maserati, a Ferrari. No, none of those. Favorite vehicle in the world. Have you ever seen Yellowstone before?
Of course, I watched. I've
With,
seen all.
Kevin Costner.
I'm looking forward to the premiere tomorrow.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow.
Oh,
2-hour premiere,
shit.
man.
Season 4, right?
I'm not even a cowboy guy,
Oh.
and I love that show.
I got the cowboy boots, and just missing the hat.
It's a very it's a good show.
On that show, they drive a big dually Dodge.
Yep.
It's like $100,000 truck. That would be my most.
It's a sweet truck. It's a sweet looking truck.
And the reason I say that is because we had a F-350 1-ton, was not the dually, and we had all kinds of fun with that thing.
I like dualies.
They're some serious towing power on those.
I like dualies until you got to replace all 6 tires. Then I don't like dualies.
Or the exhaust manifold. Yeah. Full plug.
What's your least favorite vehicle in the entire world?
Smart car. I've driven one.
I've driven
Least
one.
favorite.
I can't stand it. What construction sound or noise do you love?
I would say the sound of a grinder, but no, because it pisses off my ears.
Piercing.
The ringing. But yeah, it sounds skill saw, chop saws, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What construction sound or noise do you hate?
Jackhammer, chipping hammer, ding 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 ding, like very loud. Yeah, I don't like it.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Where does that question?
Could be anything.
There's a lot.
Lots of things you want to attempt. What would you like to attempt?
Actually, I would love to be a gunsmith or like a weapons tech. I originally, when I was in high school, I wanted to be in the military to be a weapons tech. Things didn't work out. I moved on, went to the trades. But yeah, that was one of my original passions was to, there's a company in Ottawa called Rheinmetall.
Okay.
They build a lot of, the military's defense stuff. That would be a profession, something in that engineering kind of thing, design, build these kind of things that I would love to do.
So you've got an opinion about our lovely PM and what he recently did in Canada?
We are not going to get political because there is like 10 things on that roster that just, yeah.
I know. What profession would you not like to do?
Would not like to do is like an insurance broker, a guy that sits behind a desk. I don't know how many times I've gone into Home Depot or places like that, and they're ex-contractor handymans, and they just don't know the fuck they're talking about.
They don't know shit.
They try and recommend you a Diablo blade, but meanwhile the Avantis, they're okay. They're $35 a set. But guess what? I do this kind of job once every 3 months.
It'll last.
You don't need a Diablo blade for that.
It'll last.
Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at those pearly gates?
It'd be a good job. Come, I got more work for you.
I forgot to ask you, are you using a wet saw at all? Or are you just grinders and
No, I only use a wet saw for what's required. Marble, natural stone, that kind of stuff. And it's funny you asked that because I just bought one. It's a Ruby Professional rail saw.
The big boy.
It's not as big as you think.
60 inches, man.
Yep.
That's big.
No, that's tiny. It's fucking tiny.
It's a bathtub.
It's tiny.
It's a bathtub.
Well, it's not quite 60. It's about a 54 or something like that.
Yeah, it's still a bathtub.
They're tiny.
That's big.
That's tiny.
Okay. That's a nice saw, by the way.
They are. And I went with Ruby because a friend of mine had the more expensive, like $3,000 model one. And I was in a situation where I mentioned I was doing 24 by 48 on a showroom floor.
Yeah.
I had to cut those in about 4-inch strips along the edge. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this will take forever with a grinder, and I don't have a tile snapper. So I pick up the phone, I go, do you got your cutter? He goes, yeah, I'm on a job on Rendersville Road about, here. And I go, shit, you're like 15 minutes from my job.
Oh, so you got his.
So I went to the job.
It's a nice saw.
He was doing another job. No, he had a massive one. It was about
How big do they get?
big, like bigger than 60, I think it was. It was massive. It would cut a slab. It was probably just shy of the size of this length of this table.
This is a 7-foot table, 84.
Yeah, it's just shy of this table.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a monster. And it cut those 4-inch strips no problem all day long. So I bought one about a 60 or 54, but the reason I bought it was for mitered cuts. So everybody knows mitering tiles and rectified edges. I actually bought the diamond pads to polish those as well. Just kind of upgraded.
You guys are all becoming fabricators.
Well, we
now.
had a little sander, a little 400 grit.
I know, but
why would I want to sit there all day? Okay, fine. It makes sense for a little.
But the question is, are you charging though? Because the clients will pay fabricators to do stone slabs.
Absolutely, it's a specialized.
Yeah,
and it's not much more. It's a little bit depending on the size. But I love mitered edges. I would rather not use a goddamn jolly or a sheen edging, which most people think that's the norm. No, there's Quadec, there's Rondec, there's all kinds. And personally, I had a client, I said, you got a bulkhead in the shower here. Why are we going to use a sheen piece? I have the same color in a Rondec. Are you okay with that? Put it up there. I mocked it out, showed them. Yeah, I love that. I go, okay, good. Finished the whole job. They loved it. Because you can't just be, I got this one type of product. That's all we're using. No, you got to have versatile. You got to be able to, the Quadecs, when you do ICF homes, bathrooms, you got this big massive window. They want mosaics in it.
Yeah.
Do you know how straight those are? They're never fucking straight. No. So with mosaics, it's an absolute nightmare. So the saving grace you have is you have Rondec or Quadec edging. And the reason behind that is they have inside and outside corners and they pin in together. So when you have a wall that's kind of fucked up and you can keep it straight, or if you got to parge it, build it out, yada, yada.
There's forgiveness on using those.
But it keeps everything clean. It keeps everything plumb, square. And with the sheen and jolly, sure, you can miter the cuts. It's just, there's certain things that look better. And a couple bucks more, a sheen piece of metal or edging goes for like $18 retail, right?
Yeah.
Well, a Rondec or a Quadec, from what I remember, is roughly double that. So, or just under a little bit. So
it has its applications.
There's all kinds of applications that are just better. And most clients don't know. They really don't. That's our job. So I like guys that are, they either do miter cuts, everything's beautiful. So
I know that your trade is the one trade there is in a school. I know that TT Mac is trying to create a school. I know Schluter does their courses. Weedy does courses.
I was actually approached by Loyalist College there.
To do a course?
Yeah, to teach tile.
Are they still doing the course?
I don't know, because they were trying to get government funding, and this was through another contractor.
That's one thing that the government should be funding.
And I asked a couple of fellow contractors if they'd be interested, but it's just a lot of gray area. And to actually teach it, it's hard because my way is not the gray area.
What's
the gray area is there's no set way to do something. Do you, when you go into a job, do you mix a bucket right away and start installing tile?
No, but you teach all the ways. You're getting a class.
That's impossible.
And you teach all the different ways.
Every company has a different system.
Oh, you get rid of the companies.
But there's a system.
The tile installer.
There's a system to install tile. And what I mean is, the way I was taught was you got on site, mix up a bucket, got everything set up, mix up a bucket right away, start installing tile. Another company like a lot of tile, for example, they're not like that. They'll show up on site, they'll have their guy clean the joints, prep everything beautifully, make sure everything's spotless clean, and then they'll start mixing and going. And that may take 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But it's a difference between, okay, everything's clean, ready for grout, and it's immaculate, to, okay, this job's dirty. And so how do you say that my system's wrong and somebody else's system's wrong? And what I mean by that is you're thinking, that's got nothing to do with installing tile. It has everything to do with installing tile, because some guys will take a bucket, dump it on the floor, start spreading with their half by half, whatever. I take the trowel. My old boss showed me. You take a margin or a catsuola is what we call it.
Yeah.
And we back the edges.
Yeah.
So that the thin set doesn't push through the joints. Some guys don't do that. Some guys, they'll back dot.
I've always
There's
done
all
that.
kinds of methods that they've never actually set a standard.
I've done it because I clean the joints. That's how you teach them.
Yeah, but how do you install a tile? Do you back dot? Do you trowel? What do you do?
Yeah, I think you show them all the versions.
So
of
what's
it.
let me ask you a question.
But it's whatever works for you.
What's the minimum for floors?
For what tile? So what size tile?
What size notch trowel? Say 12 by 24.
12 by 24, minimum half inch, half by half.
I'm pretty sure the TT Max said 3/8 by quarter is what I remember. We've been having this
Okay,
argument.
so the argument is that you have to have a bare minimum of 80% coverage.
85%.
So all of a sudden,
85%.
so if you're doing a 1 foot by 2 foot tile and you're doing a half by half, there's a pretty good chance you'll get that
But
80,
I've
85%.
had this argument before, less coverage.
What do you mean? Who's saying to do less coverage?
Less coverage because on a 3/8 by quarter, it's quarter by 3/8, right? So your quarter notch every quarter inch, right?
Yeah,
Half by half, every half
inch.
less coverage.
But you're getting half inch of material collapsing over a half inch
And this
gap
argument
on
has,
both sides of that
this
half inch.
argument has gone through.
So just because you've made it taller and
this
narrower,
argument has gone through so many different subcontractors. This is why it's so difficult, I believe, is because there's so many opinions on what should be what rather than what the standard is, you know? Like,
okay, so if you do half by half, you do 3/8 by a quarter, and you push them both down and you lift them both up,
yeah,
and both backs are fully covered
that's right.
and sticky,
85%.
that's coverage. So
Yep.
could we not say that both of them could be correct?
Technically, yes.
I bet you could make both of them
But
correct.
how do they, you understand, when they make a code, they say, okay, it's, let's say OBC code, they're 16 inch on center. They're not 2 foot by 2 foot. They're not 18 on 18. So how do you say one way and then the other way? It's got to be one or the other, right? So that's kind of where this issue, and I talked to older installers.
How do you know? Okay, so if you lift it up, how do you know that that's 85% coverage?
85% of the tile is covered.
No, but I can guarantee you right now, we can mix a bucket, 3/8 quarter, half by half.
Yep.
We push it all down,
Yep.
set the tile, lift it up, the whole tile is going to get covered. That's 100% coverage.
85% adhesion is what it's called.
Yeah, and that would be
Schluter specifically says if you take a hammer on a little square by square, whatever it is, inch by inch, it's about 180 pounds per square inch is what they rate it on when that thin set is cured. That's how much force. So I'm sure you know if you have 85% coverage with either a half by half or 3/8 by quarter, and you go to pull that up with your hands, you can't.
No.
It's physically impossible.
No.
So you have to use a Catsola
something.
margin trowel.
Something.
Yeah, and when you have that 85% coverage on the back of that tile, there's no way unless you take a hammer and you smash that tile. And I'm sure you've seen the videos with the glass where they...
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where this argument, I believe, has gone back and forth because they haven't set a standard on what should be what. So it's very hard to make a school
ANSI
if
has
they don't...
set a standard.
Yeah, but if they don't have a standard on it, it's very hard to make a school to, you know...
But I'm also looking at it like it's very hard to assess that it is 85% coverage when you've installed it.
Well, you install it and you can lift it up to check.
Basically, I mean, can you argue that the difference between the two, I think that both of them would have 85 minimum, if not 100 coverage.
It depends on your substrate.
Adhesion. But the only difference is that one will be a little bit lower and the other one will be slightly higher. Or will they be balanced?
So what I like to do is half by half on concrete substrate. So like a commercial.
Yeah.
But here's what I do. This is a trick I learned. I spread the half by half inch, and then I take the trowel and I back dot the floor, because concrete is not perfect.
No, it's
like
not.
This.
I know.
And tiles, especially if they're not, I like rectified edge. If they're not rectified edge, oh my God, they're
I know.
nightmare. It's like installing 12 by 12s back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll back dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll put the tile down. And what that gives me is my 85%. And when I push it down, it brings the floor up a little bit higher. But I know every time I don't have to check.
So the question is that if you don't reach 85%,
yeah, you're using a little bit more thin.
They're telling you that it's going to fail.
Essentially, yeah. That's
based on what standard?
According to the TT Mac.
This guy, you know what's interesting? Next week I'm going to be passing by Schluter just to say hello to some buddies.
Yeah,
and then I'm also passing by TT Mac too to say say hello to other buddies. So I'm sure this conversation might come up.
So back dotting, was one, but there's a whole. I'm not that well versed into back dotting, but it does work.
I agree with you. I'm not
and
yeah.
It could go that circle go all day long,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Because these are old methods, right? Which it works, of course, but you know, it's okay. What do you prefer? So, how do they make a standard on
I
it,
guess
right?
it's just you make a standard on basically just the general principles of how to be an installer. Nobody's teaching anything.
Which
with that,
the standards would be a little bit lenient, if you want to call it that.
it can't be though. You gotta have a little.
Well, they say if you read the back of a bag of thin set, it'll say 3/8 by quarter or half by half on whatever, blah blah blah.
There's words on the back of a
thin set
bag
bag.
of thin
Yeah,
set?
it tells you what
I
you're going to
don't
get
even know
for
there's
coverage,
words. I didn't even know,
depending
man.
on what size of trowel you use. Yeah.
We got to get out of here, Richard. Thank you so much, bro. I really appreciate you being on the show, man. I know this conversation can go for days, man, because we've talked on the phone so many times.
Circles, so,
I know,
yeah.
but it's good that you shared so much. I love that you got it very technical because guys love listening to this stuff, right?
One of my friends, he's I'm not going to say he's up there in age, but he's a good friend of mine, and the wealth of knowledge he has, he could sit here and speak to you for hours about the technical details on hydroband and just, you know, it's quite inspiring that, you know, he's a good friend of mine because I've not got the greatest memory, but when you're dealing with some of these things and these products, it's kind of the thing that you need to know. Like, and it's not like, hey, I call you and I say, what do I do with this? And you've never seen it before. And you've been doing this, 30, 40 years. And I'm in a job where this building was built in 1805, you know, it's kind of one of those things where, you know, it's almost like, I shouldn't say everybody should have access to it, but a lot of tile, like all the information I've learned from them and just talking to them, this information is free.
Yep.
This information didn't cost me anything.
And you want the information because you want to make an informed
frankly,
decision.
like, you know, I figure if, you know, a lot of other young installers had this access to this, you know, you wouldn't be getting some of these jobs where they have to go and rip the whole thing out, you know, so.
Everybody, check it out. RETile and Finishes. RETile and Finishes on Instagram. re.tile and finishes at gmail.com. I think that we covered everything, no?
I think so, yeah. I don't know.
No, we covered a lot, man, bro.
You're the whiz over there with the microphone.
That's it, bro. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, man, for being on the show.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Angelina. We are out of here.